Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Gaming the System, the podcast where three intersectional feminists examine gaming and games through a feminist lens. Today, I am your host, Matt, and I'm with my friend, Alex. Before we get started, if you want to support us, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/gamingthesystem for some exclusive content, or you can send us a one-off donation via PayPal to our email address, wearegamingthesystem@gmail.com. So today, Alex and I were going to be having a discussion about the Fallout TV series. Yes, we're missing the bandwagon a little bit, but that's not entirely our fault, which I'm sure we'll talk about Amazon's decisions in terms of their scheduling of it. But to start off with, when was the first time you heard about the Fallout TV show?
Oh, quite a while ago, I think. I can't remember when it was first announced, because usually they get announced and then it's like a couple of years and then suddenly it all picks up again and everyone's like, oh my god, it's coming out in 3 months. So I'd probably pin it all the way back to like the autumn of last year, I want to say. I can't remember specifically when, but quite some time ago. Yes. What about you?
Yeah, I think I hadn't really noticed. I was just aware of it
Yeah.
up until literally probably about a week before it was released, because I just saw, oh yeah, Walton Goggins is great. Don't know anyone else in it. They probably won't get it very well,
Yeah.
because how do you capture what Fallout games, the game experience is, the TV show? Surely that would be impossible. So I wasn't particularly invested in it. And then there was something just about the buzz around it, and the fact that they released all the episodes at once made me go, ooh, just made me want to go and get stuck in. And then the first like 2 minutes of the bombs dropping and Walton Goggins and the richness of that scene on its own was like, oh, I think
Yeah.
they're onto
It hit
something
hard,
here.
didn't it? It hit hard. It was good. I mean, I really enjoyed the whole thing. I think it was one of those ones where it's almost a little bit of a slow burn after an initial like hook, and then it's a bit of a slow burn, and then in the last sort of two or three episodes, it feels almost a little bit rushed at the end. But I think they were kind of trying to build up to a climax so that they could come back for the inevitable second season. But generally, I really enjoyed the whole thing, and I can't wait to watch more when it does eventually come out. I think it was very well done.
I think it could probably have done with two extra episodes.
Yeah,
because there were a few things like the Maximus's friend admitting that
yes.
I think so they
yeah.
I think that they put
sabotage their own,
because that was horrifying.
It was
a horrifying wound.
It was.
And the Maximus actor is unbelievably good, because he's really got this. When the elder is asking him if he did it, it almost looks like as if he doesn't know whether he did or not. Because he doesn't say no. He asks him, "This is the action of a weak person. Are you weak?" And he says, "I don't want to be." And so you're thinking the entire way, going, "Yeah." And one thing that I've been hyper aware of, well, more aware of recently, having read some Game of Thrones, is how rare it is that we see cowardice in things. Because there are times when Maximus is just a coward. He just goes, he just collapses, and so at the end, when he takes the false head to them and they're going to kill him, and then he takes them to where Lucy is.
Yeah.
Even though he says he loves her and wants to be with her, he still. And there's a lot about cowardice in the Game of Thrones books, and it's one of the most fascinating things about humans, really, because there's nothing more like instinctively like revolting and disgusting about cowardice, but there's also nothing more understandable and
Yeah. Yeah.
empathizable.
That's such a good
Yeah.
point, Matt. That's such a good point. It's two sides of the same coin, isn't it? When you think about it, I think all of the characters were really well written, and they had so many layers to them. And every episode, you got another layer peeled back a little bit more for each of them. It was one of those series where it follows the narratives of like, you've got your obviously the protagonist was probably meant to be Lucy, the Vault Dweller. And then you've got your other characters, Maximus from the Brotherhood of Steel, the Ghoul, who was my favourite character. And I really think if they made a spin-off series just about the Ghoul, I would watch it, hands down. Because, I just can't say enough about that character without being like, I just want to watch it again. Because it's so good. Every line is delivered. It's just amazing. I can't. Every time there was a scene with him, I was initially terrified, but as the series went on, I was just waiting for the Ghoul to be back on screen, because I knew it would be my favourite part of the episode, which it usually was most of the time. One of the key things I took away from the series overall is that blend between humour and, frankly, quite a lot of violence, quite a lot of graphic violence on screen, which I guess the games were quite violent, but do you feel because the graphics are not as sharp as other games, that it didn't really hit in the same way as it feels a lot more visceral in the TV show because it's more realistic? I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it felt more shocking in the TV show.
I think it's just it's contextual, so
Yeah.
the violence makes sense. So we were talking recently about how game graphics are so good now, and that's why TV and movie studios are going, oh yeah, this games can actually look amazing.
Yeah.
So we'll do that. But then you look back at the past and you realise that the games that you were playing throughout every point of your life, they felt like they looked as good as they do now. And I think the same thing comes with really well made games, is that the world feels like it makes sense, even though you're firing a handheld nuke launcher. It makes sense. And a vital part of the world of Fallout is that kind of violence, and that the surrealness of the Fallout world is just awesome.
They nailed that so well. I think there's a real, even when I talked about the balance between humour and violence, often they were merged. So the violence actually became something you laugh at after a little while, because they pitched it in such a way where it wasn't sometimes it was oh God, what have I just seen? And other times you just sat there laughing fully at it because it was so funny. I thought it was really interesting how casually the characters in the Wasteland, those that weren't Vault Dwellers, treated seeing someone with their foot blown off. They were just oh, let's get you another foot.
Get the foot.
I love that scene. And then Lucy, as the Vault Dweller, just kind of hardens herself to it, and eventually it's normalised for her. She's oh, I guess we're getting a new foot then, that's fine. And of course, they would all sort of have that attitude already, being part of that world. They kind of learned to live with horrific injuries very, very quickly, and it became very normalised. The steward, who eventually follows around Maximus, I forget his name, but the one that was a bit of a dick to him in where they were camped out, I guess, initially, was spending half his time walking around with half his foot hanging off inside his boot. how would he not die of like exhaustion and pain? I don't know. Yeah, it was pretty horrific, some of it. When he took the sock off, I was just like, no, no, that's not what I want to see. Thank you very much. Yeah, some of the effects, actually, talking about the effects, for like all the crumpled body parts and various bits and pieces and the monsters as well was amazing, I thought. The creature, I don't think it was in the games, Tom was saying, the one that was in the water.
Oh, the gulper.
They're
in the games.
Yeah, they were. Okay, yeah. Maybe we didn't find that one. But yeah, that was fascinating. And then the callback later on from that initial episode where it was pretty early on, I think it was like episode 2 or 3 where you meet it first, and then right to the conclusion of the Vault Tech conspiracy, it has a major role in that, actually. So I thought it was really well weaved into the story. It wasn't just a monster for sake of it, it actually meant something to the plot, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I was incredibly impressed by the monster, how the monsters looked, because we're overwhelmed with shoddy special effects, because it's just they're saturated and there aren't enough good special effects makers to keep up with the demand for it. But they did a fantastic job with it, and the best thing that the best sign of like game developers is when they can make anything make sense in their particular universe. So it eats the head, and he goes, "Oh, they digest them slowly, so I've got time." And he's got time to go and do a load of other things. And oh my god, when he stabbed the dog, that was a guarantee. Like everyone goes, "Oh, you can't kill a dog."
Yeah.
But then there's nothing more Fallout than just getting a stim pack and stabbing it in the dog, and then he's back. He's perfect and happy.
Yeah. That was great. Like everyone was so invested in the subtitles. Actually, the dog is called Dog Meat, which I thought was a really cool touch as well. There's loads of references to the games. The little Fallout, not Fallout, Vault Tech boy, Vault Boy bobblehead. I'll get it right eventually. Vault Boy bobbleheads were in there quite a lot. There was all sorts of other stuff as well. What did you think of the vaults in general, and like how we got to see more of them, and like all the different things that were going on?
So that they captured the experience of a Fallout game perfectly. So it's you're this poor, making her a young white woman was a very like she comes across as that very sort of, oh hi everyone, hi, that sort of that coddled, like stereotypical version of like the white woman, the middle class white woman. And so having her come across that, so making her as like this vanilla coddled character, and then turning her into this battle hardened like wasteland that's every Fallout game. And her saying "Okey Dokey" is like, there couldn't be a better like way of describing the experience of Fallout. Is go, oh, he's not going to sell me as a sex slave. He's going to harvest my organs.
I'm simply going to harvest your organs. I think his name was Snip Snip. It was great. That came up in the subtitles as well. I recommend putting the subtitles on, because you can get all the names of the songs as well. The soundtrack absolutely slapped, to use young parlance of the day. I thought it was great. It reminded me of obviously the soundtrack from the Fallout games, but also the soundtrack from LA Noire, another game that I absolutely love. And I just thought they paired up the soundtrack with the action really well as well. It was so good. And they're all such catchy songs as well.
and the distinctiveness of the Fallout soundtrack,
Mm.
and that sort of the 50s era classic music is so awesome and distinctive and unique.
Mm.
And it's just another thing, like, why would you have 1950s smooth music over incredibly insanely violent
Mm.
things happening? Cutting
Like the woman
his
getting a fork stuck in her eye, all sorts. It's, yeah.
and her cutting the guy's head off.
Yes.
Just goes
Yeah.
zoom zoom.
I remember that.
Okie dokie.
Okie dokie. Oh, there's so many. Oh, what was his name in the vault? Was it Chet or Chad? The one
Oh
that
yeah, the guy who's in love with
so
her.
great. He was so
Oh,
great. He was so funny. Oh, I love it so much.
it's so fucked up.
Just gets roped into this marriage of convenience, and he's like, "Sorry, dude, I guess I can't do anything now. I've got a woman and a baby."
And and coming up with the perfect, because as the people are coming around to in the media, it's management that are the problem.
Yes.
Management. It's the people at the top in charge making all the
That was
decisions.
such a good reveal. I couldn't
They
believe it.
could
I was
not have
like,
that could not have been. And then finding out you want to the entire all the way through going, oh, there are these happy vaults, and then we swap between two vaults, and then everyone's from vault 34, 31 or 33. And then finding out that those people, the ones that you've been seeing around for the entire time, they were
yeah,
alive 200 years ago.
yeah.
And then the pregnant woman suddenly seems so much more insane.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
you just go, and another strength of it is they have that insanity, but they are able to ground it in like reality incredibly well, and making it so it's not just an insane thing for insane things sake.
Mm.
It's that first scene of him with his daughter at a children's birthday party, just the way
Yeah.
he deals with his daughter and his life is fascinating, because we start off, we see him on the day the bombs drop.
Yeah.
He's doing a child's birthday party. That's like the sign of the washed up star.
Yeah.
And then you find out that he was the person who came up with the Vault Boy with the thumb,
With the thumb. Yes.
and he's the one responsible for the blue and yellow of the Vault styling, because his
Yeah.
wife gets him that uniform and says, "Oh, I got it in your colours."
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so, and then finding out along that way that she suggested that Vault Tech drop the bomb themselves.
Mm.
That is this just come. The story of this is
It's so
unbelievable.
good. So good.
Jaw dropping.
Oh, yeah. And even then, when you find out that he came up with the thumbs up, the way the episode ended with him just shooting the head of the Vault Boy back in the wasteland, and you're like, oh my god, he's carrying so much trauma. Oh, it's so good. I just really want to watch it again now. It's so good. There's so many good things about it. What haven't we talked about? I think we haven't obviously talked a lot about the various factions within Fallout and things like the Brotherhood of Steel. I think Tom was filling me in on a lot of the lore because I've only played a little bit of Fallout 4. And apparently they didn't really explain the Brotherhood very well. How do you feel about that?
I feel like, again, it's just a an extraordinarily crafted thing, because people who have played, you could have played all of the games, and it can speak to you, but it can also speak to people who've never even heard of Fallout before. It is a slow burn.
Yeah.
But they give you enough in the moment that the world unfolding around the story that they're telling, sort of it breathes out, and then you can look at it and go, well, we don't know if they're brotherhood necessarily.
Yeah.
There's tons of, it's just, there's lots of, who knows, but it's a mystery that even if you know, even if you, who's played all the games, no one knew where that story was going to go. And so people who've played the games are in the same boat as people who haven't played the games.
Yeah.
And it all made so much sense, which is so refreshing to go, oh yeah, she did that thing directly because of that, and then that thing happened directly because of that, and everything matches up, rather than there being, oh, this big thing happened and then it's not necessarily connected to other things. And so, like, with in the vault, for example, you don't need to know anything about vault tech. You just go, oh, this is strange, but something's going to go wrong.
Yeah.
And you don't know what's going to happen, but you know something's going to happen. And then you think, oh, why did someone break into the vault and kidnap her father? And you go, and you think, oh, we just need him as a hostage for this, and it would just be some broad strokes things, but needing him for his password, and oh my god, and the cowardice. That's what the problem with management making all these decisions are. They make these great big broad decisions that have catastrophic consequences, and because there's no one there to hold them accountable, they just lie about them.
Yeah,
they live in that. It's such a perfect case study on the world, in that you've got management. They have these broad, big, massive ideas that completely fuck the world up for the 99% of people, and that world doesn't affect them. So they create this little patch of heaven for themselves and think, oh yeah, everything's great, and no one here knows anything about the outside world, so everything's great. But then, and they lie to the people who are around them, because they go, if I was honest, then you would hate me. And then right up until the end, he tries to lie, is going, oh yeah, this wasn't my fault. And then you prove it, and you go, oh yeah, it was my fault. And then you just want to go, just fuck off, all of you, just fuck off. Management, they create a 99% catastrophic result and a 1% good result that sits on top of that.
Of course.
And the only other thing that has sort of captured that for me has been the Horizon games.
Yeah.
That thing is just
there's quite similar themes there, isn't there? Yeah.
They destroy the world, and then, because they don't have any stake in the world, they're just going to have a nice time regardless. And you just go, but it's so nice seeing that, and then, I just hate them so much. I hate them so much. And her father is just the biggest piece of shit.
Yeah.
Out of all of them. It's
It was so well done. Well, even those characters are really layered as well. I liked the actor anyway, because he was in the original Dune movies, and also in Desperate Housewives, which is where I mainly know him from. He's been in a few other things as well, but I thought he played it really well when he suddenly revealed his true colours and then just ran away, and it was such a frustrating thing, and you're like, okay, well, that's going to have to carry on in the next series, and it looks like they're alluding to it being New Vegas, which Tom got very excited about, but I know nothing about because I've never played. But yeah.
Oh, I'm desperate to play New Vegas, but it's a buggy, unplayable nightmare on PC.
Yeah.
And it's just the way I want to play it. I haven't been able to play it, and because it's made by the same team that made The Outer Worlds, which is just one of my favorite games. um, and the bits that I've played of it are awesome. They capture that same thing,
Mm.
and there's just an incredible richness there, and
Yeah.
it's just exciting. It really what I think would have been best if it had an extra 2 episodes
Mm.
to spread out that bit.
Yeah.
Um, but it definitely what what often happens is they'll make we'll do a shorter amount of episodes, and then we'll build up to a cliffhanger,
Yeah.
and always have me going, oh yeah, but the best bit will be in the next season,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then it keeps on going like that. This gave us a full, like, 8 course banquet
Mm.
of stuff that you could get through all of it and go, oh, that was awesome. I'm happy
Yeah.
to wait a while. I wonder what they'll do next, rather than them giving you morsels along the way, selling them as full servings.
Yes. Yeah.
And it was pretty much flawless, apart from maybe they could have extended the last 2 episodes.
Yeah.
The core of the stuff that happened in the last 2 episodes was excellent.
Mm.
It just a little bit more time to breathe.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I changed my mind about very quickly, it really did need the breathing time of a weekly release schedule.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. We touched upon this in another episode where we talk about just the landscape of reviews and things, and how when you release a review on a TV series, for example, that's not had a weekly release, and it's already out of date, and it's been 2 days since it's been out because everyone's already watched it and they're on to the next thing. It's that kind of culture, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. Things become out of date and irrelevant very quickly. But when you have a more structured weekly release thing, it becomes like it used to before we had streaming services, when everyone would come back into work the next week and say, oh, what did you think of the episode this week, or whatever else, and it became much more of a talking point over a longer period of time, which makes it more relevant over a longer period of time. So it's interesting to consider those differences, because I think everything's so much more speedy nowadays. The culture of everything we consume in media is everything now. And I guess that's reflected in streaming services. But I agree, I think I would have preferred a weekly release, because then we can all digest it and take more from each episode, and like spend time talking about theories, and that's how communities bond and grow over these sorts of things, these fandoms, and how people connect over it as well. So yeah, I think it would be beneficial to keep it over a weekly release.
Yeah, I would have loved to have done what Gem and I did for The Last of Us last year.
That would have been very cool.
Because then we could have had 8. We could have talked for
We
hours
could
and
have,
hours and hours
for
over
sure.
the course of. It would probably only just have finished a couple of weeks ago if it had happened like that. And yeah, it's just it's a shame, because I think there are multiple reasons why they might have done it. They could have just gone, well, people might treat it like the game. With a game, you just start and then you go until you've had enough. That would be like a Fallout experience.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't think it was going to be as successful as it was. Maybe they maybe they want to go back to when Netflix first started and everything was released in one go. All those reasons. But yeah, I think. Yeah, I wanted more time for it.
Yeah.
What I think would have been ideal is if to release the first 2 episodes of something, because then you can go, oh, that was good. Oh my god, that bit was awesome, and then you're hooked.
Yeah.
And yeah, because I had so much fun with Gem talking about it over a couple of months, And this has the rich. Each episode has the
Oh, it
richness
certainly does. Yeah.
to
There's so
last
much
a
in
week.
each episode. Yeah. Definitely.
And yeah, it was just brilliant.
We should all
And
watch
it's
it
just,
again.
yeah, we should. It's just one of those things that's just, it feels like it's gone in a flash.
Yeah.
And we need
Like
sort
a really
of that
nice
adult.
bit of chocolate, you know? Or like you want to eat it all in one go, but you know it'd be better if you save it up. But then you get near the end and you're like, I'll finish it, but then I'll be sad when it's over. And it's like the constant battle between wanting it more but not wanting to finish it, which you get when you watch a good TV series or a film or whatever else. Yeah.
It's that parental voice that goes, it'll be better if you don't have it all now.
Yeah.
But then you have to, if you're left to your own devices to do that, then it's it's interesting because we're people of our age. We're in the technology straddling generation of, we had cassette tapes and now we've got this.
Yeah.
And I had a TV in my room that was, the screen was about the size of my laptop screen.
Yep.
And it was like a foot, 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot in size. And now I've got a might be 60-inch TV that's like a couple of inches thick.
Yeah.
And it's there's a balance there somewhere. And I think the problem is when something isn't particularly good and isn't very rich, then it's like having like white bread as opposed to a really nice sourdough baked bread.
That's
it's sort of like
from the oven. Yeah.
And sort of like sugar over like quantity over quality.
Yeah.
And so they can just rush it out thinking, oh yeah, if they have all of it at once, then they'll think it was satisfying. But this is, and a lot of the time we've got so much content. There's so much content, and
so oversaturated. It's insane, isn't it?
And there's so much shite.
Yeah.
And if everyone that, like Harrison Butker we talked about, and these hateful anti-woke people, and if they would just calm down and relax, then we could just spend our time talking about this. We wouldn't have to waste our time talking about bullshit that just gets in the way and slows us down. Because this is fun.
Yes,
I'd like to just do this and enjoy, not have to worry about capitalism and fucking. Hopefully we'll have more conversations about this. But have you got anything else you'd like to add at the
end? Not that I can think of now, but yeah, I definitely would love to discuss it more in future, especially when Jem has finished watching as well, because I'm sure she'll have plenty to say on the topic.
Absolutely. And then we have to, and when something, if all released in one go and you watch it in a week, and when it could have been out over 8 weeks, those are 7 extra weeks that you've got to wait until the next season.
Exactly. Yeah. It just prolongs our suffering.
No. Absolutely. Thank you, Alex. That was a lot of fun. Right.
I enjoyed that. It was good.
Thank you, everyone, for watching or listening. You can find us every Thursday, new episode. We're closing in on 200 episodes, so you've got a lot of work to catch up. And we know that some of you have been there since the start. So as we continue on our journey, we're very grateful to all of your support. And we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.